Okay, here we go. This is gonna be super fun.
Fire away.
Okay. All right. Hey guys, this is Nate Busenitz coming at you from quarantine. I'm here with our esteemed and illustrious Dr. Bryan Murphy, and he graciously agreed to sit down and join me for just a few questions. Bryan, how's it going there for you in quarantine out in the Antelope Valley?
Well, I think that more than most people, I'd say I have it pretty easy. After the first couple of weeks and adjusting to online only classes and getting used to new tool sets, etc. We have been richly blessed. At Roosevelt, we did our very first ever live stream a couple of weeks ago, and then we pulled it off again this weekend. And so that was a neat opportunity for a bunch of people that normally aren't involved in the day-to-day events on Sundays of ministry. Got a chance to be a part of ministry, so that was kind of exciting. And showing up in people's houses unannounced like that. Well, I guess it was announced, but and then getting the feedback of, oh, it's cool to hear from you, Pastor, and that kind of stuff has been neat. The family's well, and the classes are going well. I think probably more than anything from a quarantine perspective, the thing I most appreciate, as you know well, Nate, is our students and how they've been willing to bend over backwards for us and be exceedingly patient with me as I learn the tools and as I change the assignments and adjust. So I think as far as our nation goes and the world goes, I think probably I'm in the most privileged position of all, but we're doing pretty well. The Lord's been gracious.
Has all of the national attention to the coronavirus situation, has that impacted the content of your preaching at all? Or in other words, have you been doing special messages that address kind of what's in the news and what's on people's minds? Have you just decided to keep going verse by verse according to what you had already planned? How has coronavirus affected your preaching?
So I graduated in May of 2000, and that's when I came up here and started as a pastor. And I still remember September the 11th, when 9/11 happened. That was such a major life-changing event for our society and in many respects for the world, that I did a special message on Isaiah 6 that Sunday afterwards, and then returned to the study actually in those days of the Gospel of John, and just continue to pick up where the next verse was and go on, because Isaiah 6, I think, really set the tone in a key point in Israel's history. When Uzziah dies, they've had 52 years of peace and prosperity and prominence as a nation, and then the king dies, and even though he's been reigning through proxy for a while now through his son, the fact of the matter is, when the king dies, what happens? And Isaiah has shown a vision that God is still on the throne, and what he expects of us is to be faithful witnesses for him in the context of a changing society. When the pandemic was announced, and that first weekend, when everyone, not the first weekend when we were told, hey, everybody's is in danger, and particularly seniors and those that are sick should probably stay home, I continued to preach as normal. When they said, okay, now it's stay safe at home, that weekend I did a special message, and I went back to Isaiah 6 again.
A little bit of a more mundane question. I know that you enjoy watching Warriors basketball, but now the NBA is canceled. I know that you enjoy listening to audio books on your commute, but now you don't have a commute anymore. So,
well, I have a commute, but it's 12 minutes instead of 2+ hours.
12 minutes, that's a nice commute. So what are you doing these days outside of teaching classes through Microsoft Teams and Zoom, or preparing messages for the church? What are you reading? Any books outside of your personal preparation for sermon study? What's occupying your time during quarantine?
So Actually, this is my second trip through the Gospel of John because I've got 20 years in. I made a commitment to preach the whole gospel in 1 year because that was the book I started with. And we spent 3.5 years when we first got into it. So there's a couple of commentaries on John that I'm just kind of reading through again, one by Homer Kent and one by D.A. Carson. And I've got Recalling the Hope of Glory by Ross. It's a book on worship. It's a really neat book. I'm about 2/3 of the way through that guy. But really, um, my schedule, I've gained back a little bit of time in the commute, but pretty much the rest of my schedule is the same as it's always been. Like I said, I'm kind of untouched, I think, by the quarantine. Still have the same number of papers to grade, still have I just gave an exam to the 503 guys today, and I'm, working out how to proctor online. A lot of time has gone into organizing our deacons to, they're making contact with everybody in the flock every week. And if anybody has practical issues, we got a number of seniors. So if any of them don't want to go out, they can place their order at Walmart or wherever. We have deacons going and making the run, making personal contact to everybody in the flock every week is an assignment I'm going to have for next week. Learning how to do things virtually, spending more time at home with the family. Getting all the extra little projects like seeding the backyard because we are allowed to be outside, and I'm back as long as my knee can hold up. I'm back on my bicycle, so that's been fun.
Are you doing that commute to the church on your bike or not yet?
So I'm doing that on Friday as my first day back. My typical summer practice is 3 or 4 days a week to ride out to the church and back. But the older I get, the more my knee's not able to do as much as it used to. So Friday's my day. I don't do it on days that I'm going to teach because I want to be properly attired, and seeing me in my bike outfit is not, I don't think that's as professional as I would like to be in class. I want to take the classes for the guys as seriously as I can, and work as hard I can for them. But yeah, Friday, Lord willing, we're going to have pretty nice weather up here, so I'll be riding my bike at least out. If my knee hurts too bad, I'll beseech my wife to come rescue her old man. But otherwise, yeah, hopefully I get 20 miles in on Friday.
Oh, that's great. All right, final question for you. We've got entire student body that's experiencing, of course, what our whole nation is experiencing. What would be some words of wisdom or maybe a message of encouragement that you could give to our students as they're navigating this unprecedented season?
I guess I would say first and foremost, thank you to all of our students. I just couldn't be more proud of all of the guys that I have in my class and all the guys that I've heard about in other people's class. I just couldn't be more proud of the effort that guys are still putting into doing their assignments, and not just to satisfying the requirements to get credit and to get a degree, but that, the quality of the questions that are still being asked in classes, the faithfulness to attendance, the diligence to work hard to master the material they're being taught. I all I can say is the current pandemic situation has encouraged me that I really am in the most privileged position on the planet, working with some of the cream of the crop in the next generation of God's men to facilitate the expansion of His kingdom. I look at the amount of effort and exercise that has hit me, and I mean, my job got a little bit more complicated, but I still have a job, and the Lord has provided richly, and I have the greatest people to work with and for, and everybody isn't in that situation. I'm sure some of our students have I know one of our students in particular is going to have a baby this week, and the wife is going to be induced. I know some of our students, there have been people in the household have been sick, and some students have been exposed, like we have one, or might have been exposed, it's an EMT and those kinds of things. So if you're not in a um, in an untouched situation, God's still sovereign and sitting on the throne in your life. And this is a marvelous opportunity to take advantage of what it means to be God's kind of person in a sin-cursed and a fallen world. And it's a context where a lot of the world is not responding well, either by being flippant and disregarding the realities of this pandemic challenge, or being hyper anxious about it. And this is just a nice, wonderful opportunity to be God's kind of person in a challenging circumstance. And so if you really have your eyes fixed on God, and you really are desirous to be used by him in the future in shepherding other people, this is a great chance for you to demonstrate what real Christian values look like, what real Christ-like service and considering others as more important than yourself looks like, in a time when a lot of the world is being selfish and shrinking in and panicking and out to get out of this as much as they can for themselves.
All right. Well, Dr. Murphy, thank you. Really grateful for you and for the rest of our faculty team. And thanks for giving us a little bit of time to answer some questions and find out how you're doing. So we'll
Well,
talk again
thanks.
soon.